You will eat the bugs.
Eating insects could help fight world hunger.
From caterpillars and cockroaches to mealworm-covered apples.
You will live in the pot.
Putting 10 what we call pedestrians into the space. There's no privacy. As you see, there's no curtain, there's no wall.
You will wear the mask.
He's fucking joking me.
When I do not have to wear the mask on. No, you have big fucking phone.
You will get the vaccine. You will welcome the refugee. You will celebrate Pride Year.
We'll convert your children.
You will watch the Hollywood movies. You will celebrate diversity. You will watch the pornography.
You want some big fucking cock?
Yes.
You get changed. And
So this is where you live. What do you like about it?
You will consume the product. Don't ask questions. Get excited for next product. You will not spread anti-Semitism.
This was posted by a professor at Rutgers University on his Facebook page. There is absolutely no price to pay who openly expresses such vile hate.
You will fight white people.
Look at the belly of the beast and we will gouge it!
You will put your kid on puberty blockers.
Well, you're a boy, right?
No, I'm a girl.
My son started telling me that he had a girl's brain in a boy's body. All of his authority figures telling me he's a girl.
You will send your daughter to Eurovision. You will have no privacy. You will own nothing.
Now is the historical moment, the time to shape the system.
And you will be happy.
They started it. They created the discord, just like they do in America with all the racial division and all the sexual division and all the rest of the crap. We know who the bad guys are. It's the New World Order. It's Hollywood. It's the big corporations. It's the ruthless people using behavioral psychology on us to control us and run our lives. Let me do this in this segment, and then I'll come back and really drill into this next. Let me just tell you what's in the news. The Davos Group has officially released a big report I've got right here. It's from them saying that your world vaccine passport will be the new digital currency and that private central banks are preparing to basically end all the currencies of the world once they've devalued them and used the funds to buy everything up while they're devaluing it. And that you will be tied to a world ID for your currency and that you will be the currency under Bill Gates' patent that we told you about 2 years ago. Here it is right here. From them.
Aujourd'hui, au bout de ça, on parle de puces qu'on pourra s'implanter. Ce sera quand ça?
certainement dans les 10 années à venir. Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans nos topos. Et à la fin, peut-être il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital. Ce que nous voyons, c'est une sorte de fusion du monde physique, digital et biologique.
On appelle quelqu'un, on n'a même plus le réflexe de devoir prendre un appareil, ça se fait naturellement. Hein. La technique continue le corps.
Oui, vous parlez et vous dites, je veux maintenant être connecté avec n'importe qui. Et d'abord, vous avez les robots personnalisés. Et j'ai vu que M. Zuckerberg a prédit qu'à la fin de l'année, il va avoir son robot, son butler personnalisé qui est à sa disposition.
Donc, comme dans Downton Abbey, on aura son butler personnel, son serviteur, son esclave.
Oui, mais il y a une différence. C'est un serviteur qui, avec l'intelligence artificielle, apprend et qui n'est pas seulement votre assistant pour des travaux manuels, qui peut vraiment être un partenaire intellectuel de vous.
A Swedish company specialized in microchip implants promotes the use of their device to carry the COVID pass, saying that the chip makes the data more accessible even if a person doesn't have their phone with them. The chip implant is placed in the arm and programmed so that when the chip is read by a smartphone, it opens up a PDF file which contains a person's COVID passport. This makes it easier for different entities to check the health status of the individual.
Chip implants are cool because they speak NFC, near field communication, and we know that the world of connected devices, the Internet of Things as a lot of people call it, speaks the language of NFC. I mean, that's what you do with door readers, with smartphones, with payment terminals. They are all NFC enabled. So when I have a chip in my hand, it allows me to speak the language of all these devices and interact with them effortlessly.
The chip implant costs €100 and is part of the rising trend of the health wearables. However, the company claims that their chip implants are more durable and can be used for 20 years or more. The implants don't have batteries, and they cannot transmit a signal by themselves. In other words, they're passive and they don't give away any data. The smartphone-activated implants may have other applications in the future, but for now, they act as an easily scannable personal data storage.
We want to give the world access to a super useful technology that really has the potential to transform healthcare and in particular remote diagnostics in fascinating ways.
Disruptive Subdermals is a company specialized in implantable microelectronics. We are particularly focused on tiny injectable chip implants that don't have a battery. The way they work is that you inject them under the skin, and then when you want to do a reading with using the sensors of the implant, you just swipe on the outside of your skin with your smartphone. That activates the implant, it does a reading, and then the data is transferred to the phone. In this way, we want to enable people to read their vital body parameters at any time and in any setting, really.
The purpose of this study is to compare temperature measurements via this new subdermally implanted device compared to traditional temperature measurement techniques. In a subdermal implant, you have a much more consistent environment, the sensor is in place and it's inside the body.
So I have two implants that are temperature sensors that measure my body temperature.
I have one in my stomach and one in my right arm. There are very small chip implants, roughly the size of a rice grain,
It's very easy to read it. You just basically swipe your phone over the chips.
The installation was actually fairly simple. I almost didn't even realize it was put in until it was done.
Anyone who's used to tweezing their eyebrows or hitting their small toe on something, that's so much worse.
I go into the app. I go to read temperature. So I'll just open it up. And there we go. Now it says 33 degrees is the abdomen sensor value. And it's that simple.
This should be the way to find problems in your body and help you live longer and healthier.
I wanted to be part of the study to make sure that we are moving towards a more technical and advanced society.
Potential clinical applications for this type of device is home monitoring, for instance. In an outpatient clinic situation, you could use implants to have a much better surveillance of the patient.
Our technology is both cheap and robust, as has a very long lifetime. We think it can be valuable for millions and millions of people. We have set the ambitious goal that we'd like to see 1 billion people implanted by the year 2030.
We on the mission trying to get it in.
There's a natural overlap between body hackers and the blockchain movement. And here at Body Hacks 2019, a 2-day conference in Austin, Texas, I'm planning on joining these couple hundred people who can officially call themselves cyborgs by getting something implanted too. So I've just watched a bunch of videos about getting implants, namely the magnets under the fingers, and they use a scalpel, and there's a lot of blood, so that was a little bit much. For me though, it'll be much less gruesome. I'm just getting an NFC-enabled microchip implant. It's housed in glass, about the size of a grain of rice, and so it fits inside a hollow 14-gauge needle. The needle goes in, the implant gets pumped out, the needle comes back out. It hurts about as much as giving blood or getting a piercing, and it gets injected most often between the thumb and index finger. And it's secured by this blockchain. That's the implanter's joke. Some attendees had programmed their chips to open RFID safes and doors, unlock their phones, and send their contact information to other phones, and some had even hacked their way into creating an authorization for accessing their Bitcoin holdings. That last use case, that's what I'm looking for. So on the last day of the conference, I sat down and a minute later excitedly exclaimed, "I'm a cyborg!"
Thank you for your cooperation.
The implant I got, the VivoKey Spark, currently allows users to send an NFC-enabled phone to their profile page or to whatever website they choose. For the test, and to shamelessly promote my content, I set the implant to send a phone to the Bitcoin at 10 website. Oh, shit. It did, in fact, take me to Bitcoin at 10.
Can I try?
Yes. Now we'll try with another person's phone. OMG.
Wow.
Cool, huh? Next, I set it to take my phone to my Receive Bitcoin QR code, making it easy for people out and about to scan that code and tip me some crypto.
$2?
I guess, if that's all you're willing to give me, cheapskate. And in a week or so, VivoKey will be launching a new API that will allow users to program the chip to act as an authenticator key. With this, I should be able to request that every time I want to send or transfer Bitcoin out of an open source wallet, it'll ask me to scan the chip to validate that transaction. And that way, the chip will act as a unique security measure that might make my hand as valuable as Clean Eyes in Minority Report. But seriously, don't take my hand. I don't have that much crypto.
Nu är jag inte rädd, för det känns som att vi inte där än kanske med tekniken att chip hackas på det sättet. Och nu använder jag det bara till mitt jobb och mitt gym. Men i framtiden kanske man får tänka en gång till. Men då kan jag alltid ta upp det.
Just imagine having a microchip implanted in your hand as proof of vaccination. More and more people in Sweden are doing just that in the wake of the new COVID restrictions.
Other Europeans are joining in massive, sometimes violent protests over vaccine requirements. So what's happening here in the United States in response to the Omicron variant? Dale Hurd has the details.
The World Health Organization admits there is yet to be a single death from the Omicron variant. But that hasn't stopped some governments, especially in Europe, from using it as another reason to enact mandatory vaccination laws. Here in the U.S., Omicron cases are now confirmed in at least 17 states.
We have several dozen cases, and we're following them closely, and we are every day hearing about more and more probable cases.
But so far, Omicron does not seem to be dangerous. Initial studies show it has a similar genetic structure to the common cold, making it more transmissible. But in South Africa, where Omicron first emerged, hospitalizations have not increased significantly.
We really got to be careful before we make any determinations. But thus far, the signals are a bit encouraging regarding the severity.
Peter McGinn of Minnesota tested positive for Omicron after a visit to New York City. He had been fully vaccinated and received a booster.
Kind of feeling that tired. I kind of felt bad for about a day. Did my absolute best to follow the guidelines. I had my mask on the entire time.
COVID guidelines and restrictions have become a significant issue in Europe, where some nations are requiring citizens to be vaccinated. And that has sparked massive and sometimes violent demonstrations across the continent. This Belgian woman says, I don't agree with the mandatory vaccinations because these vaccines, I don't think they're great yet. In Spain, this college professor says the dead from COVID-19 are mostly vaccinated people instead of non-vaccinated. That's in all hospitals. This woman says, we don't want the COVID-19 passport. We want freedom. It's a human right. We don't want vaccines for us or our children. This is genocide. Austria has announced it plans to become the first country in Europe to make COVID-19 vaccinations mandatory. Germany plans on making vaccinations compulsory for certain jobs. European Union leader Ursula von der Leyen says it's time for the EU to discuss a Europe-wide vaccine mandate. And in Sweden, increasing numbers of people have implanted microchips with proof of their vaccination into their hands since the nation announced new COVID restrictions. When scanned, all of a person's information about their vaccination status is shown on a reader or phone. It's also a way to link devices implanted in your body to the internet. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, microchips aren't coming to America anytime soon, but it does boggle your mind that people in Sweden would actually volunteer for that, to have a microchip implanted, and so that they could go to restaurants and go to stores and conduct business. So you look at these developments and you really shake your head and go, what in the world's going on? But here's another more serious development, and you're not going to see that story about European protests against the vaccine and people within those various nations saying, I don't want to take a vaccine at all, and the government should never mandate that we take a vaccine. You're not going to see that story in the U.S. news because it doesn't fit the narrative. Here's a Google search for you. You can go to Google News and type in the word evangelical, then another word white, and then type in vaccine, and you'll be amazed at the number of stories that come up that are specifically trying to demonize the white evangelical community for somehow being anti-vaccine. I think it's religious bigotry of an enormous level. I mean, these are not fringe groups on the internet. This is the New York Times. This is the Washington Post. This is the Wall Street Journal. And this past weekend, it was Yale University that put out some kind of study of how to convince white evangelicals to get the vaccine. I'm a white evangelical. I have the vaccine. I know a lot of white evangelicals who have the vaccine. White evangelicals doesn't mean that you're anti-vax. But at the same time, we shouldn't impose it. This is not, should never come down as a government mandate. People have the right to their own bodily security. You can't mandate this kind of thing. Now, have vaccines been mandated before? Sure, polio, smallpox, but you're dealing with infections that have horrible consequences where there's no cure. Here with COVID, is there a death rate? Yes. But at the same time, it's not a devastating thing. It's not some kind of emergency. So let's take a giant step back and stop the narrative that somehow this is racist or white nationalism or some kind of political narrative you're trying to advance. This is religious bigotry. I'm going to call it for what it is, and it should stop.
Well, Elon Musk's next project isn't a car or a spaceship or a solar panel. The executive's latest startup is called Neuralink, which focuses on the goal of implanting chips into human brains and also connecting brains to computers. Here's what Elon Musk said at a conference in California about the technology last night.
This, I think, has a very good purpose, which is to cure important diseases and ultimately to help secure humanity's future as a civilization relative to AI. This, I think, has tremendous potential, and we hope to have this aspirationally in a human patient before the end of next year. So this is not far.
Not far, he says. The implantation of the neuron, the implantation of the neuron-sized threads requires the use of a special robot, but Musk said it's a minimally invasive surgery. So Thornton, I'm sure that means you'll be getting one soon.
I'm gonna get a few for the kids with my 23andMe kit.
Naturally,
surprise.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the disease thing sounds great. That seems very awesome for humanity. But I am definitely thinking that, for me, if I'm Elon, chips and brains drive the car, car's automated, your Tesla is going to appreciate. Problem solved. All you have to do is get people to put chips in their brains, and Teslas will appreciate and value like he promised.
I mean, there's a lot of use cases.
I love that analysis.
There's a lot of use cases.
This is how you got to think. I think Elon. That's how you got to get.
Yeah. I mean, I wish he would get those self-driving cars going. I mean, that would be an achievement in itself. But yes, if he's dealing with people who have neurological diseases, spinal cord injuries, and they can be connected through this device, and it can help them, then great. But if Elon Musk is coming for my brain, forget it. I definitely am not interested.
I mean, there are a lot of people working on that too, right? Specifically when we're talking about trying to figure out how the brain can send messages to a computer or to a machine, in terms of people like you mentioned, Sabeel, who have mobility problems. But you figure out how to work things that way. There's a lot of companies working on it. Part of the reason why he actually held this event was to get the name out there and also help hire people. Because right now he's only got I don't even know if it's 100 people working there, but it's smaller, much smaller than any of the other companies he has out there. But trying to get people to jump on board and come say, no, this is the company that's going to be getting things done.
Yeah, I mean, for those who have medical challenges, it makes sense to definitely try to ease their lives and help them. Yeah. But when it comes to people who don't have mental challenges, but at the same time are already having issues with just like their smartphones and not being able to sleep, I can't imagine having a computer directly plugged into your brain will help.
I mean, call me old-fashioned, but when you own 5 other companies, saying this is the company, it seems odd. I mean, brain drain is going to happen in Elon Musk's own little universe.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean, that's the thing about Elon that always sort of gets me sad in the end, is that these are great ideas, but he hasn't finished anything. I mean, Tesla.
SpaceX is still launching things in space.
Tesla, I mean, SpaceX has hit space, and Tesla cars are on the road, but Tesla's not a finished product as a company.
Sure.
I mean, it's barely. I mean, let's be honest, it's not ready to live on forever. SpaceX. I mean, I haven't seen a tunnel. I mean,
we've seen demos of like mini tunnels.
I've seen a flamethrower.
That guy's some slack, man. He's got 5 companies.
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's get
and he's
one,
trying to go to space.
I want a chip to heal my brain, but I want someone to be able to finish it.
Yeah, it's true. You don't want a half-done
chip.
You don't want that.
My brain's half done enough.
This chip doesn't seem right.
According to AI experts, brain implants could make learning obsolete in less than 20 years. Instead of reading textbooks or going to school to gather information, we'll have devices in our brains that download information on demand. That may sound like a lot to achieve by 2040, but based on where current technology is, AI expert Nicholas Karanos says the timeline isn't out of reach. A brain implant, also known as a neural implant, is a device often placed on the surface of the brain. It's capable of communicating with your neurons, recording their activity, and even telling them how to behave. One of the most common applications is deep brain stimulation, where electrodes are implanted into the brain to stimulate different areas and reduce the symptoms of brain-based disorders, such as Parkinson's disease or epilepsy. More than 150,000 people globally have received such an implant, but the implants can control neurons in other parts of the body as well. Doctors have used neural implants to stimulate the spinal cord, allowing individuals with paralysis to walk again. Amputees equipped with the implants were able to control robotic prostheses using nothing but their thoughts. Then there's a host of examples that are straight out of sci-fi novels. For example, a team from the University of Pennsylvania's Computational Memory Lab successfully enhanced people's memory capabilities by stimulating brain regions using electrodes. Perhaps one of the most well-known brain implant companies is Elon Musk's Neuralink. The company's ultimate goal is to merge computers with the human brain so that human intelligence can keep pace with advancements in artificial intelligence. Neuralink uses threads in the brain connected to a 4mm chip called the N1. The company recently released a video that appeared to show a 9-year-old monkey equipped with the N1 chip operating a game of Pong using his mind. The N1 chip is just the first step for Neuralink. The team is also developing neural lace, a brain-computer interface technology. The ultra-thin mesh will be inserted via a tiny needle and encompass the brain. The goal of neural lace is to enable humans to upload and download information directly from a computer, much like Neo in The Matrix. Neuralink isn't the only company making headlines in the field. Led by CEO Ramses Al-Kaid, the Neurable team revealed the world's first brain-controlled VR game in 2017. Their device is a wearable that uses 7 scalp electrodes to record electrical signals in the brain. MindX is another brain implant company that aims to create a look and think interface for next-generation spatial computing applications. Users will be able to interact with computers using smart glasses that link with the human brain. The glasses will let wearers access information with a single thought. No more rummaging for your phone to Google a burning question. This is all just the beginning. There's a long way to go with this technology before we all have the option to get chipped, and many hurdles to overcome. After all, major elective brain or spinal surgery is incredibly risky. Still, engineers are working on tiny implants, such as the 0.25 square millimeter neurograins, as well as implants that can travel to the brain via the bloodstream, eliminating the need for open brain surgery. Considering all of this, AI expert Nicholas Karanos may be correct. In the next few decades, would you want to make your brain part machine?
It's a great pleasure to be here again and to talk about the fourth industrial revolution. But before doing so, I would like to congratulate our hosts for having taken this initiative and for having the courage now and the foresight to transform what has been an annual meeting into an ongoing international organization. Governments have a key role to play. It's the young generation which certainly will drive the future, but governments have to shape the future, the theme of this annual meeting. When I was here last year, I talked about innovation. And many of the things I talked about were considered to be fiction, far away in the future. But ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, the future is already here. The future has begun. Let me tell you why this fourth industrial revolution is so crucial, so overwhelming in terms of the changes it will bring to us. Of course, we know the first industrial revolution with the invention of the steam engine, the second one with the electricity facilitating mass production, the third one with the rise of the computer leading us into the digital age. But the fourth one is different. 4 differences. The first one is the speed. The fourth revolution is not coming like the waves in the ocean, small waves. It's coming like a tsunami. And ladies and gentlemen, when we look at all the breakthroughs, at all the possibilities, opportunities which we have in the coming years, it will be overwhelming to see how fast the change will happen in an exponential speed. The second difference is it's not just one breakthrough. It's a combination of many breakthroughs at the same time. In the book, which is available to you on the fourth industrial revolution, I mentioned 23 different breakthroughs, like the Internet of Things, like brain research. And I could go on and on. Of course, drones, robots, artificial intelligence, and so on. And all those different technologies, technological advancements reinforce each other. The third difference is this technological revolution does not bring just new products to us or services. It changes the systems. Look at Uber. It is not a new product in itself. It's a new system. It's a new system of mobility. Look at Airbnb. It's not a new product. It's a new system of hospitality. So this revolution changes all the systems, how we consume, how we produce, how we organize our supply chain. And this leads me to the fourth difference of this technological revolution. It changes not only what we are doing, it changes us. Because it's a fusion of our physical, digital, and biological spheres. It's an integration of those spheres. Just think of sensors planted into our brains. The opportunities are immense, and we have to prepare ourselves already now. History meets us now, and governments, as I said at the beginning, are challenged. They have to change. Let me just lay out 3 changes which I feel are absolutely essential. The first one is that governments recognize the role they have to play in order to foster innovation. In the future, it will not be any more a divide between advanced countries and emerging countries, between developed and less developed countries. I think the dividing line will be between innovative countries and non-innovative countries. That will make the difference, whether governments can provide a better life for the citizens in the future. Second, governments have to reorganize themselves. The old traditional hierarchical approach will not foster innovation. Governments have to reorganize themselves as platforms. I would say, take Apple as an example. Why is Apple so successful? It's not just because they produce great phones. They have a platform with thousands and thousands of apps. Some apps are run by Apple itself, other apps are put on the Apple platform. And that's probably the vision of a modern government, where the government provides certain apps, certain services, but engages its citizens into the platform by providing their own service apps for the benefits of all citizens. The third difference, or the third change governments have to do and have to undertake is to put the whole emphasis on the development of human capital. In the future, it will be talents, the availability of talents, which create the competitive advantage of a country. I said already 1 year ago, capitalism in some way is replaced by talentism, because talents is the most precious resource of a country. And here, the capability in a fast-changing world to reskill and upskill its people through lifelong education, to integrate all parts of the population, inclusive women, into this talent pool is a challenge. I could go on and on, but you see my thoughts summarized in this small booklet. Let me just finish by sharing with you what I feel the necessary leadership capabilities are which we have to cultivate in this new age of the fourth industrial revolution. It is brains, soul, heart, and nerves. Let me explain. We need our brains, but maybe a little bit in a different way. What is essential for the future in terms of leadership capabilities is to develop contextual intelligence. We are living in fast-changing systems, and we have to be able to connect the dots. Contextual intelligence. But the second dimension of leadership today is the soul. To have a vision, a long-term vision as we find in this country. When everything is changing, we need people, leaders, who have a compass which shows them the way into the future. And not people who have a built-in radar system which send out signals and afterwards adapt permanently the course according to the reactions they get. The third leadership dimension is the heart. We have to embrace this change with passion. I know change creates different feelings in different people. Feelings of fear, sometimes feelings of resistance, particularly in people in governments who are used to a very stable environment. But change means opportunities. So we have to feel passionate about the change. We have to embrace all the possibilities this new fourth industrial revolution provides us with. And finally, we need good nerves. If I take the results of the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Davos just some weeks ago, I would say the key message is the unthinkable in many ways has to become thinkable and could become a reality. So we need good nerves. But, Your Excellency, as you mentioned also in your speech, in your introduction, this new technological revolution, it can provide the entry card for humanity into a new civilization. It's not the robotization of humanity. It's to make this earth a real human place. That's our task. That's what governments should do. And that's what we are all here for, to work together, to create a more sophisticated, more enlightened humanity. Thank you.
Thank you.